Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Doctor. We're here in a new year, thank God, 2022. Looking forward to a fantastic new year. And we're going to learn a lot today from the man of the hour. He's going to teach us all the things that we want to hear about having a fantastic, successful new year. He teaches, trains, and lectures doctors all over the world, taught well over 10,000 hours, and he is here to teach us tonight. So do make sure to put any questions you have in the chat, and we will be here to answer them for you at the end. Without further ado, Happy New Year, Mr. Dr. Bob Rakowski.
All right. Well, happy, beautiful 2022. And, people have been asking me, how do I have the healthiest year ever? There's a lot of spins we could take on that. And I'm going to cover the 7 life areas today. But, simple background. I've now been in clinical practice over 30 years. I've treated world champions from every major professional sport. I've seen patients at the other end of the spectrum, including a few stage 4 cancer patients today, which, by the way, sickest people really need health measures. And so I think the world is waking up to that and taught on every continent that's inhabited, just not Antarctica. I'd love to have a seminar there someday, but I like to tell people that we are mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, and impactful beings. And we want to really achieve progress or even excellence in all of those life areas. So if we start out with mental, it's all about focus. Most of us realize that focus is a brain phenomena. And we're trying to still figure out exactly how powerful this brain is. And this Inc. magazine report said, our brain is more powerful than every computer combined. The processing speed, the things that we can handle is really beyond amazing. And there's more connections in our brain than there are leaves in the Amazon forest. So it's absolutely mind-boggling. I really like Daniel Amen, psychiatrist. And, he said a few decades ago, psychiatrists were the only medical professionals that actually didn't evaluate or examine the organ that they were treating. And he changed that by becoming a pioneer of brain scans and reading brain scans. And his TED Talk was entitled, What I Learned After 83,000 Brain Scans, and that you can change people's brains. So keep in mind, when people change their mind, they literally change their mind. And they did scans of the same brain under different circumstances, a grateful brain versus a hateful brain. What hate literally is quite bad for you. So stop it, right? We're going to find out when we get to emotional. Love is the answer. And we want to just be able to breeze through life a little bit more easily. I heard a quote one time that people who are the least flexible are most likely to get bent out of shape. So when we are under stress, blood is shunted to muscles to fight or flee. It shuts off detoxification. It shuts off higher level thought. It shuts off joy. And therefore, we want to find ways to process that stress. And as I tell people, the brain is the most nutrient dependent, energy dependent, stress vulnerable, toxin vulnerable systems in our bodies. And I wanted to have a different slide in there on NeuroTracker, but my day ran really behind. A very good day helping a lot of people, but sometimes that happens. So NeuroTracker is something that can train the brain in a lot of different ways. And I'll show you some PubMed studies. And previously, it was only available at high level clinics at $100 a session. People can actually have a home download of this and train it as many times a day as they want over the course of a year. Absolutely phenomenal. So it can be literally pennies a session, $300 membership for that. But now we're going to talk about some of the benefits. It's like a 3D game where you follow balls in space on a screen wearing 3D glasses, but it can actually monitor concussion recovery. So they know how well the brain performs, a concussion happens, and they want to get it back to that baseline. It also can monitor recovery of not only pediatric brain injuries, but adult and geriatric as well. And now they know that it improves quality of life in senior citizens and is good for kids with ADD, ADHD. And so this is something I've been sharing quite a bit now in my practice. And people are absolutely loving it. They say, Bob, this is what I think can get my brain to where I want it to be in this year and for the rest of my life. So 6 minutes a day, training 3 times a week, phenomenal responses there. If someone invited you to this Zoom, reach back to them. Chances are they can connect you with NeuroTracker. When we start looking at physical, it's not just fitness, it's vitality, it's energy, it's enthusiasm for life, all of those great things. And we want all of them. And we have another magnificent 7. You've got to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right, every single day to manifest the ideal level of health. And I can teach full day seminars on literally each of those, but I'm going to focus on the big 3 in Reader's Digest version: eat, move, sleep. And I like to show this picture of Tom Rath, and he's Amazon.com's best-selling author of all time. But Eat, Move, Sleep is essentially his autobiography. So he lost an eyeball to cancer at age 16. And when they did some genetic testing, they found out, wow, you lost a genetic lottery. You're creating tumors all over your body. And if you don't take really good care of yourself, they will become cancerous. And even if you do take good care of yourself, the doctors told him, you'll never see your 37th birthday. When this picture, he's 45 years old. And he realized that when he ate right for his body, then his tumors would actually shrink. And by the way, he has tumors in his lungs, his liver, his kidneys, his spine, his ribs, his pancreas, lots of different places you don't want it. And we're going to want those tumors to shrink. So when he eats right, they shrink. When he moves right, they shrink. When he sleeps right, they shrink. And so when we start talking about eat right, simple thing is you want to eat less food, less often with less toxins. That's going to mean clean, organic food. And I'm going to expand a little bit here. Jack LaLanne said, if God made it, it's okay. If man made it, stay away. Michael Pollan said, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And I'm going to spin on that a little bit more. Eat real food that God made, clean food that's not intoxicated with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, or genetically modified. Not too much. Why? Because calorie restriction increases longevity. Not too often, because intermittent fasting increases longevity. Every color. Why? Because every color has a different variety of nutrients every day. That's how often we should nourish ourselves in a way that honors our physiology, where we're currently at, our body goals, and I could even throw in our genetics, mostly plants. When we start talking about moving right, when you look at physical fitness, there's a test called the Wingate cycle test. And people get on a bike under a certain tension and they warm up for about 2 minutes. Then they're asked to sprint all out for 30 seconds. And one reporter said, that seems like a heck of a workout. Why don't I just do that every day for 30 days? And here's what she found out. Just sprinting 30 seconds all out for that test at the end of a month, better body composition, better metabolism, better mood, better sleep, you name it. So, intensity counts. And by the way, she did it every day, so it compounds. And I also love the Tabata workout. He was a Japanese physiologist that said, I wonder what's better, training hard 4 minutes a day, 3 times a week, or running running for an hour slow 3 times a week. And so he had age matched, health matched people. One group ran an hour 3 times a week. The other group, 3 4-minute workouts. And the 4 minutes were 8 rounds of 20 seconds on, 10-second rest of something really all out. So there's a couple of different, Tabata workouts that you can do. But bottom line is you can get really fit fast with Tabata. And then finally, sleep right. I like to say that a great day starts the night before. Anders Ericsson studied peak performance in all kinds of diverse fields. And he found that the best of the best sleep 8.6 hours a night. So LeBron James, Tom Brady, athletes that are known for excellence and longevity, they have very strict sleep routines that they do not deviate from. When we look at emotion, I think love is really the ultimate emotion for ourselves and those around us and even our world. And if we look, there's 3 different types of love. There's that wonderful romantic love that I hope everybody experiences, or hopefully even is now. There's that philos, like Philadelphia, brotherly love. That's going to be a real nice friendship. And I hope you have that going on too. And then there's what they call agape, spiritual or unconditional love. And wouldn't it be nice if we could have that for ourselves and everybody around us? When we look at spiritual, I read a book long ago that was written about success, and it said all success is essentially a successful partnership with infinite. And keep in mind, if you are partnered with infinite, you can't get more than your share because there's an infinite supply for literally everybody. And Tom Chi is an astrophysicist, and I love his TED Talk. It's entitled Everything's Connected, Here's How. And he took it all the way back to the Big Bang. And he says, you know what, I'm going to tell you a story of the heart, of the breath, and of the mind. Then he talks about the heart, and he talks about blood, and he talks about hemoglobin. And that's hemoglobin, and the central molecule that carries oxygen in our hemoglobin in our blood is iron. And he said, if we didn't have supernovas in the Big Bang, we would never have gotten to iron, and we couldn't have made hemoglobin. And then he talks about all these collisions, and these are pictures of a number of different galaxies that are in the process of colliding with one another. And this is happening all over in our amazing universe. When he talks about the breath, he says, if we go back 3.5 billion years ago, there was almost no oxygen in the atmosphere. It was basically, as he said, carbon dioxide, methane, and water. And so how were we going to get oxygen? Well, there was a bacteria called a cyanobacteria that ultimately would breathe in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. And now he said, think about this, you know, the lifespan of this little bacteria was very brief, like 1 or 2 days, and it was microscopic. And he says, you know, imagine you're having this life and you go, well, how am I ever going to make a difference in the world? Well, guess what? Without these little bacteria working together, we never would have created the atmosphere, oxygen, where humans and animals and mammals could take a breath. And finally, he talks about the palette of being. So he's an astrophysicist. I don't know how long those have been around, but not very long, maybe since Einstein or maybe even after that. So as time goes on, we can become different things, and we have a choice. We always have a choice of what we can become. But the final point was, look, everything is connected. We're all from the same source. And if we recognize that, maybe we could treat one another better. And I throw in a nutrition plug for Ganoderma, my favorite superfood. It's known to calm the body, the mind, and the spirit, known as the herb of spiritual potency. And it's unique that PubMed would use that language. So there's the ID for that there. Finally, social. You know, they say man's best friend is dog. And I don't know that that's entirely true, but someone, to make a point, said, well, imagine 2 things. You know, if you're a single guy with a girlfriend, imagine you accidentally walk your dog and your girlfriend in the trunk of your car for 3 days and forget about it. It says, when you open the trunk 3 days later, which one of them is happy to see you? And I thought that was kind of funny, right? And humor wins the day, but dog could be a very good friend. But ultimately, one of the paths to happiness is to give happy, make other people happy. You know, the best way to have friends is to be a friend, have good friends, be a good friend. And I love the idea of absolute presence. You know, what's your 100%? Well, whatever you're doing, do that. When you're with somebody, be with that person. Don't be distracted by the iPhones and all the other things that go on. When we start looking at financial, I love Ziegler's Law. You can have everything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And as one of my mentors once said, you know, if you can accomplish all your goals alone, well, they aren't very big, but how can we help a lot of people? Well, I'll then go with something else called deserve. Deserve literally means from service. So again, back to Ziegler's Law, the more you serve, the more you deserve, the more you get from service. Einstein talked about compounding being the 8th wonder of the world. And this applies to a lot of different things in life. It could be your health habits or your bad habits. They're going to add up in a way where you can be super healthy or decline where you could be very unhealthy or maybe not around very long at all. But literally everything counts. And if we talk about financial, this is an example that just still blows me away today. If you start with a penny on day 1 of a 31-day month and you double it every day, There's the math. It's profound that it's over $10 million. And Seinfeld took advantage of this. He would write a joke every single day and put an X on the calendar. So if you've got a goal for something, go ahead and do it every single day and build on it and learn from it and get better every single day. And then there's a simple analogy that, well, what if it took you a year to double? Okay. Well, year one, you have a penny. Year two, 2 pennies. Not getting very excited, but look at year 31. Still that 10.7 million. So if you keep improving, you will ultimately get there. Finally, when we look at impact, I love this statement: your network is your net worth. Grow a network of people that are on the same page, that want to add value to the world, and together, everyone achieves more, right? That's that team acronym. We'll transition to questions and answers, and 2 of them were sent to me. Someone asked very specifically about fibromyalgia and Ganoderma. So fibromyalgia is horrific pain. And I tell people medicine didn't know what to do with it, so they would give people painkillers, antidepressants. And since the patients didn't get better, it had a very high suicide rate. That's easy enough to look up. Well, someone finally got the idea, I think it was 2018, well, why don't we study Ganoderma and see if it helps with fibromyalgia? And it helped absolutely tremendously, because it modulates the inflammatory process by more than a dozen mechanisms, and it's also good for overall body energy. So that fancy language there that says it increases production of mitochondrial electron transport complexes, well, quite simply, it increases the parts of our cells that make 94.4% of human energy. Someone asked about, again, Ganoderma and brain issues. So one of my favorite testimonials is about stutters. Paul Stamets became the world's foremost authority on medicinal mushrooms. He had a very bad stutter as a teen. 1 dose of medicinal mushrooms corrected that. And Satya Patel was the one that shared the testimonial of this family that was just really struggling with their son having bad stutters. And it resolved 4 days for hot chocolates. And Dominic DeMille in Wisconsin, notice what his mother said, that she's forever grateful. Her son has not only improved with his focus and attention, but his anxiety has decreased, his moods have improved, and he helped his dad build a skate ramp. Powerful statement here. My autistic, anxiety, panic-ridden, ADHD defiant child wants to work as a shoe salesman. The kid who was scared and anxious to be in public wants to talk to the public and sell shoes. So there you go. Pretty amazing what can happen. And Carol, we're going to see if anybody typed anything in on the chat. And if not, they can raise their hand or say something, or however that works. But again, if you want to have a great year, pick your major thing. But remember, we're mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, and impactful beings. And I think we should address some of that every single day. And in fact, in an hour of power, in 1 hour in the morning, you can get all 7 in.
Excellent. So we do have a question on how much Ganoderma a day for fibromyalgia, or would it be spores?
I like the spores because they're the most potent. So there's 3 different parts of the plant, and the root system is called the mycelium. The flowering body is called the Ganoderma lucidum. How the plant replicates are the spores. Some of the components of the spores are 75 times more concentrated. Most people I know want to be better yesterday. And so I tell them 2 spores every waking hour. And I often do a stress reset, because what happens is when your body is stressed out for too long, the stress hormone cortisol is an anti-inflammatory, but it no longer works. Bodies ignore constant stimuli. So my classic example is I'm wearing glasses, but if I put them up on my forehead and I walk around and I do something, I may start looking all over the house for my glasses. It's like, where did I put my glasses? Where did I put my glasses? Because once they're on my head for a short period of time, you forget them. You wear, we tune out constant sounds. You might have a air conditioner running, maybe not where you are, or a heater, where you can hear the blower, but it's always there, so you tune it out. So 2 every waking hour, along with 100 to 200 milligrams of theanine and 1 to 2 milligrams of melatonin. Very, very powerful.
Perfect. We have a question about white rice. Is it good for you or is it bad?
Well, it's bleached, right? They've actually pulled out a lot of the nutrients. So there's brown rice, there's black rice. I think there's even a blue rice now, and there's even red rice. So, when they start doing things to it, they start pulling things out. And wouldn't it be nice if it were organic and clean and unprocessed? And there was an article written years ago, what you eat probably doesn't matter anywhere near as much as how much processing it's gone through. More processing, more problems. So eat as clean and natural as you possibly can. And white rice has been processed.
All right, we have a question in the chat that I'm trying to read without glasses. Give me 1 second. What are your thoughts on Phil? Go ahead.
Well, which one are you looking
The
at?
Phil Maffetone's training style versus Tabata training.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So Phil Maffetone wrote a book called Everyone's an Athlete. He trained triathletes. He says everybody needs to train in an aerobic zone and they will optimize their aerobic performance. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to create aerobic athletes. But when you look at aerobic athletes, guess what? They are nowhere near as toned, strong, everything else as anaerobic. But what my guideline is very, very simply is train every muscle fiber type, every energy system, and there are 4 energy systems directly in proportion to the demands of your activity that you want to do. So if you want to be an aerobic athlete, well, then Maffetones is absolutely the best. If you're a purely anaerobic athlete, like a power lifter, what this data shows is any aerobic training actually decreases anaerobic efficiency. And then if you're a CrossFit type athlete, train all systems. And so we really need to answer that in reference to what people are doing. Now, keep in mind, Maffetones athletes are doing 20 plus hours of aerobics a week. That's a lot compared to 12 minutes a week with 3 Tabatas. So what we were trying to come up with was the most efficient. And by the way, when they do Tabatas, they improve aerobic efficiency and anaerobic efficiency. And that's well documented.
Perfect. Does it matter how long you take the 2 spore capsules every waking hour just to keep, or just take them while you're sick?
Well, I only recommend it to jumpstart. It's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. So I do these big doses and this frequency when people are in trouble. And then, if someone said I had to live my life taking 2 capsules every hour, I go, well, okay, there's got to be a better way. And there is. Build up your system, do everything right, eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. Then if you're exposed or under high stress or whatever happens, well, then you can do a more intense protocol.
Perfect. How good is Ganoderma for weight gain and loss with female fitness clients?
Well, we have a bunch that are doing really well. So I'm going to say absolutely fantastic for that. And so you might say weight gain or loss. Well, if you're trying to gain weight, hopefully you're trying to gain muscle. That means you're training hard. It alkalizes the system. It modulates the inflammatory process. I don't know why my videos won't play on my PowerPoint today. I had a Zoom earlier today and I had some videos I wanted to show, but we've got a video of a 6-time world champion, Ulysses, bodybuilder, absolutely loved it. And then we also have tons of testimonials of people that have lost fat, and there's at least half a dozen mechanisms by which it promotes. So, it's a natural adaptogen and it helps the body move in a better direction of health wherever you're at. It helps you to adapt whatever you're doing.
Perfect. So they were asking the melatonin 2 grams and the other thing for fibromyalgia. I'm assuming it's the theanine.
That's the stress reset. Yeah, and I could probably put that in the chat. That wouldn't be that hard to do.
Okay,
while
you do that.
To find it.
Sharon says, I have a broken leg. It's been almost 3 months. I can't drink milk. I drink almond milk. I drink the King coffee mostly. Is there something I can take to help repair the bones and help with the nerve damage?
Bones still need repair. I mean, that's something is wrong at 3 months, that's for sure. We want to figure out what's wrong. So the first question that has to be answered is what's causing the problem? Because my gosh, I mean, something was not right about that. It should be healed by now. But I use a supplement called Bone Builder, and people might think that, well, calcium is what we need to build bone. No, it's one of a dozen minerals, and there's also a protein matrix that's collagen, and you got to control the inflammatory process. And they actually know that micro motion is better than complete immobilization when it comes to fracture healing. They actually heal better under micro motion. So, the right doctor with the right protocol, that should have been probably resolved a long, long time ago. But Bone Builder from really clean New Zealand cattle, I'll tell the story. I had a professional motocross racer that I don't know what kind of jump he went up to, but people wiped out in front of him, and then he had to wipe out to avoid landing on people. And then a bike landed right on him. And the pelvis is a ring structure. And think about when you break a lifesaver, it doesn't break like this, it breaks like this. It breaks in like a ring breaks. A ring does not break in one spot, it breaks in two. And that's what they call it, a lifesaver fracture. And so he did that to his pelvis. And we put him on 15 different bone builder a day, and a very good balanced diet, and modulated the inflammatory process. He was racing professionally again in 6 weeks. Now that's a super elite 25-year-old, and huge healing potential, and a lot of reason to it, because he was making a lot of money on his bike. So he didn't want that downtime. Motivated, compliant, great genes. He did it.
Okay. Should I be concerned about burping more than normal?
Yeah. Something's not right. Figure out what's going on in your diet. Maybe you need some digestive enzymes. That would be the first thing I'd start thinking of. Maybe hydrochloric acid. Are you swallowing more air than, people can swallow air, aerophagia is that what they call it. But, relax, breathe easy, take deep breaths, really practice moving your diaphragm. Most people don't breathe right. Picture that when you breathe, your diaphragm should move way, way down. And as it does, your belly goes out. And then when you exhale, that pulls a vacuum, and all this wonderful air goes into your chest. And when you exhale, guess what? The abdomen comes in, and then the diaphragm moves up, and the air goes out of the lungs. And deep breathing is absolutely fabulous. And they often recommend exclusive nasal breathing because it filters the air more effectively. There actually are these turbinates, and people actually suggest that it ionizes some of the ions coming in. There's some pretty fascinating things about that, but we're shallow breathers. We have terrible posture. We have horrible diets. And then we get frightened when something that is proven to have just 0.02% more death rate than the average seasonal flu, they're calling it a global pandemic. If people weren't so sick, this thing would have been gone, 20 months ago.
Okay. What do you recommend for an 87-year-old female with vertigo-like symptoms?
We got to figure out what's causing the problem. It's just that simple. A lot of things get interesting at 87. If it's sudden onset, I want to know, did she hit her head? Did she get a sinus infection? When I teach structural courses, I tell people that, anything eye, ears, nose, or throat, vertigo's in her ear, is cranial till proven otherwise. But keep in mind, we have to figure out what they're calling vertigo. So I'll have people that get dizzy when they stand up. That's not vertigo, that's orthostatic hypotension. Their body's stressed out, and their blood pressure, instead of rising when they stand up, drops. So when you're lying flat, you don't have to pump against gravity. You stand up, the pressure should rise 6 to 10 points. But if it drops, well, then your heart starts racing, trying to catch up. You don't get blood up in the brain, and you get a little wobbly. I mean, I see plenty of seniors. We put them on a stress reset, and we often move that in the right direction fast.
Perfect. Right now, that is the end of what I have typed in here. Does anybody have a hand to go up or some questions to ask for me? Oh, yep, here we go. Beatrice. Can you unmute? Got it.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Bob, I have a friend who is suffering from sciatica. She cannot walk, she told me. Is there anything from our products that could help her?
Well, we want to modulate the inflammatory process. So, that would be 2 spores every waking hour is a good start, but we want to figure out what's causing it. Hopefully it didn't create a lumbar disc. There could be something called piriformis syndrome, but a good structural practitioner should be able to align the lumbar spine and pelvis. And the sciatic nerve, the biggest nerve in the body, has 5 different nerve root levels, L3, 4, 5. Those are the bottom 3 lumbars, S1, S2. Those are the first 2 sacral segments. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong that can create sciatic type symptoms. It could be at the lumbar spine. It could be at the pelvis. It could be at the piriformis. If it's lower than that, there could be a peripheral entrapment, but a good structural practitioner hopefully can help out.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Alexander asks, is running 5 miles every day too much?
Depends on how fit you are and if you like it. I still remember Stephen Covey's statement. He says, if you're running 10 extra miles, if you're running 10 miles a day, hoping that you'll live 10 extra years, you better love the running because you spent those 10 years running. So that's pretty fascinating. So if you love it and you're fit and you're not breaking down, awesome. If you don't love it and you're breaking down, well, then that's too much, So there's a lot of variables there.
Okay, Claudio, you had a question?
I do actually, but before I ask Dr. Bob the question, I just wanted to appreciate his time and always being in service and never out of service. That's something that I picked up last Wednesday's replay with Dr. Wong. With Dennis Wong. How important is to drain the lymphatic system, I guess?
Well, hopefully it drains ideally on its own. I mean, if it gets clogged up, you get something called lymphedema and you're in big trouble, so it is important. But the muscles are the pumps. And, when you stay active, and I'll go with all 7, eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right, you ought to get it going. We move less with increasing age, and sometimes there's trauma, and that can cause some challenges. So it's important. When I teach nutrition, I get a section on detoxification or poop right. And, most people have heard we are what we eat. Well, that's kind of true. We are what we absorb. That's more true. We are what we don't eliminate. That's most true. So keep in mind, we want to get all good stuff in and get all the bad stuff out.
Okay. Alexander, I am having leg pain from spinal stenosis. What can I do to avoid surgery?
You got to keep that spine as balanced as possible. You got to keep the core really, really strong. And, it's very, very interesting, but we could do an abdominal exercise all together. It might be fun. This is actually harsher than it looks. We'll only do 3 repetitions, but when I have people that are having spinal instability problems, and by the way, if your spine were stable, it wouldn't get more stenosed. It's just that simple. You were born with your spinal level, and the way it gets more stenotic or narrowed is because bone spurs grow in because there's some level of instability. But we are wonderfully made, and we've got a whole series of abdominal and pelvic muscles that when they work together, they give us an absolutely epic girdle. So I'm going to describe the process, and then I'm going to suggest we all stand up and do it. But the first move is, I tell people, the first thing you do is you're going to pull your belly button in as far as you can. And my visual is pull your belly button in and touch your spine with it. Then keep it on your spine and lift it up to your throat. Now, obviously you can't do that, but you pull it up as high as you possibly can. The next thing you do is you tuck your tail under as hard as you possibly can. And then, the young people tend to, snicker when I say this. Squeeze your butthole as hard as you possibly can and hold it squeezed, hold the tail tucked, hold the belly button up and in, and then exhale hard through clenched teeth as hard as you can. And what you're going to do is activate muscles that you didn't even know that you had. So if you're up for it, let's stand up and do this. So I'll lead us through 3, repetitions. If you lean on a table in front of you, it's easier to do. All right, so here's the first move. Belly button in, drag it up your spine to your throat, tuck your tail really tight, butthole really tight, exhale hard through clenched teeth. That's the first rep. Now, belly button in, belly button up, tail tucked, butthole tight, exhale hard through clenched teeth. If you don't feel a burning in your deep abs, you're not doing it right. Okay, last one, best one. Belly button in, belly button up, tail tucked, butthole tight, exhale hard. Now, most people feel like they got an absolute burn of a deep abdominal workout. Now, keep in mind, I said tail tucked, butthole tight. There are some ladies that develop incontinence after childbirth. That'll tighten up that pelvic diaphragm. It can also be good for sexual function in all people that's important to. So it's a pretty good thing. And by the way, it's going to massage your organs. That's probably the furthest your abdomen is moved into massage your organs, then up. And then when you're exhaling that hard, it's amazing how hard you work that diaphragm. And it's fascinating. If I were to ask you, you type in the chat, 0, yeah, it is a super Kegel, the butthole tight, yep. But if I were to ask you to type in the chat, 0, you don't feel your abs at all, 10, you feel like you had the hardest ab workout of your life, how would you rate that? You can type that in 7, 8, 10, 8, 8, 7. I'll tell you what, my typical answer in my clinic is 7 to 8. And then I don't know the people that are doing the 10s, awesome. You know, I mean, you were really squeezing. I tend to call it about a 7 myself, but pretty impressive. I don't see a number less than 7. So pretty cool. So it's, by the way, you can do that every day. And if you do, you probably have a better life.
I'm actually a living testimonial for that. You sent me a video when I threw my back out last year. And I completely recovered doing that within about, I got to say, probably about 2 or 3 days with full mobility. But I did that every half an hour, every hour on the hour. And yes, I did chuckle when you first sent me the video.
You know, and I'm trying to think, I might even do a Facebook Live with this patient, but I did it this morning with an absolutely amazing, beautiful, wonderful 82-year-old woman. You know, and there's a lot of wisdom in 82 years, and you know, just matter of fact, and wanted to make sure she got it right. And she goes, "Man, that's awesome. You know, I this feels like better than I've felt in a long, long time." And because she was hurting, I said, every hour, you know, and I trust that, you know, she'll come back and she'll do it and she'll feel a whole lot better. So pretty good stuff.
Excellent. Jennifer, Dr. Jennifer asked, bone builder for healing traumatic bone or osteoporosis in what dosage and brand?
Well, I use Metagenics, professional from New Zealand cattle, guaranteed clean, no heavy metals, and the tablets, I don't know the milligrams, but I recommend 15 a day typically, unless it's a really big person. You know, let's say if you had someone, I don't know, 6'7", 265 pounds, you know, you might go to 21 a day or something like that, but, or a tiny person, maybe only a dozen a day. My daughter broke her arm and badly in 2 positions when she was 10. And we were going to the Bahamas the following week, and she really wanted to swim with the dolphins. And so she was motivated. And so they had chewables, and she was doing something like 15 to 20 a day. And remember, broke both bones of the arm. The bigger one and the more important one for stabilization, what had a rock solid fracture callus. You know, it's something like 10 days, and she didn't even have to have a cast, and we could swim with the dolphins.
That's awesome. What would you recommend for someone who has shingles and sarcoidosis?
So sarcoidosis is an autoimmune circumstance, and we've often talked about universal immune modulators, and there's 6 of them: seal and heal the gut, DHEA, vitamin D3, activated omega-3s, and 2 Chinese botanicals, Ganoderma and Periliseed. But I can go to my YouTube channel and I have a little mini course on autoimmunity, and I will type that in. I'll copy it and put the link in.
Perfect.
Carol, I'm getting more efficient. Yay.
There you go. Dr. Bob, how do we help someone who has fatty liver?
Well, they say that fatty liver is the first major metabolic abnormality of insulin resistance or prediabetes. So a ketogenic diet can help. But we've later found out that, when people have insulin resistance, they get fatty liver, fatty pancreas, fatty kidney. They can even get fatty heart. And so we might just simply say, friends don't let friends get fat. I mean, we all have different metabolic rates, and I wish it were all fair. But what they know, and this was a big study, they actually found out that obesity was more of a social disease. If your 5 friends are obese, you'll likely be obese. And they also looked at what's known as epigenetics, and they found, that if you are physically active for a year, there's a 40% downregulation in obesity promoting genes. Now, keep in mind, that's 1 year. So how about this compounding effect? Get another 40% the following year, get another 40% the following year, get another 40% the following year. And eventually you can have a pretty good metabolism. Stay active, eat right, real food, clean food, not too much, not too often, every color, every day, in a way that honors your physiology, genetics, and goals, mostly plants.
Excellent. Any other hands up today?
Me, again, sorry.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Cause and cure for dementia, please. I'm going to be copying or pasting this recording to a colleague of mine, a friend.
Well, there's certainly more than one cause. And so when you start looking at Dr. Dale Bredesen's book, The End of Alzheimer's, he shows a roof with 36 holes in it. And he says there are 36 known risk factors, but they go into 3 major categories. And that's toxins, inflammatory process, and a decline in growth and repair factors. And so, guess what? If you eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right, you help a lot of those things. You certainly don't want to be diabetic. They call Alzheimer's a type 3 diabetes of the brain. And in fact, Claudio, I have a brain mini course that I created on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to send you the link in the chat now, where I go through that. And I also talk about dementia as a type 3 diabetes of the brain. So I'll share that with you as well.
Perfect.
Like I said, always in service.
What kind of diet should you have with Wilson's disease?
So I'm pretty sure that that's a copper storage disease. I'm going to have to look that one up. Zinc is a natural copper chelator, so we would want to do that. We also know that things like vitamin C, calcium, green vegetables are also pretty good natural chelators. But quite simply, I'd make sure that my zinc was good. And you probably need to supplement zinc. 19 to 20 people that I test in my clinic are profoundly zinc deficient. I think a lot of it has to do with heavy metals.
Okay, a couple of quick questions in the chat. You sent Claudio a small video on how to do that breathing exercise. So I think that's what Jennifer's referring to.
Yay, Dr. Bob. I'm copying the diabetes type 3 and posting that, but I don't think Claudio, I probably just sent that to you, right?
You did, yes. It was, you did that live and you sent it over to me because it was I was almost immobile.
Yeah, so I didn't.
If you want me to send that to Dr. Jennifer Wong, I can forward that. If you're okay with that, I'm good with that.
Of course.
Yep, you betcha.
Absolutely.
Done.
Awesome. Teamwork. And Xavier said, my apologies, if you could repeat the protocol recommendation for the psoriasis.
It's autoimmune. And so there's the 6 things, and I put the autoimmune mini course in the chat. And so the 6 universal immune modulators: seal and heal the gut, DHEA, vitamin D3, resolve in form of omega-3s, and 2 Chinese botanicals, Ganoderma and Perillacine.
So far, it's quiet. Holding my breath. Hold on.
Claudia, do you have a way of putting that exercise video? Someone else wants the exercise video. By the way, this replay is in Miracle, and I'll put it on my. I guess I'll put it on my YouTube channel as well.
Great.
Well, since it's, you know, we're 48 minutes and counting, that'll take a little while to load up, but we can get it up there tonight.
Yeah, you know what, if anybody lets me know who wants it, I can forward to them directly because it's on my phone. I'm not sure I can transfer it over to my PC right away.
Okay.
Carol, yeah, you bet.
Thanks. Oh, yeah, if you can post that on your YouTube, everybody would be thrilled by the looks of it, Dr. Bob.
Okay.
I think we're at the end of our questions for tonight.
All right. Well,
Unless Claudia's got anything to go.
Make it a new and beautiful year.
All right, everybody, time to unmute and thank the man for starting us all off the right way.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Dr.
Happy
Bob.
New Year. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Bob.
Happy New
Thanks, Dr.
Year.
Bob.